Hello everyone, welcome to this week's FPV podcast. This week, we're getting a little bit nerdy. We have a volunteer that's really helping out Multigp. He does all of the background stuff that all of us race organizers need to make our lives a little bit easier. But before we get into all that nerdy stuff, Elvin, what do you got this week?
I want to say hello to everybody. This is that season where you spend time with your families and you get closer with your neighbors and participate more. Just remember, guys, this is not the only time of the year for that. You know, I mean, you can do this all year long. Be kind to your neighbor. Be acceptable to the person next to you. Be kind. This is something that we find is rare today. So I would like to make a request. Be kind to everyone around you. Get out of the house. Go interact with the rest of the folks. Let them know that you're a nice guy.
There we go. There we go. I promise to be nice to him for 15 minutes. No, I'm kidding. Chris Perry. Chris Perry, can you please introduce yourself?
Oh, hey guys. Well, I know a lot of you already, but yeah, I'm Chris Perry. Slowpoke, as a lot of people know me on the racetrack.
There's a reason.
That's hey, you know, I mean, it's set expectations. If I do well that day, that's awesome.
Right.
Got beat by Slowpoke, but more often than not, I've set it so that way I can just come in the middle of the pack, and I'm perfect.
Yeah, he's not that slow. I've seen him fly. So
yeah, he's not that slow.
Yeah, I can fly.
Yep, he can fly, and it's
he can be BY all day long.
That's right. You probably can.
Right. I would if I could.
Hey.
But I gotta.
It's great to have Chris on. He's definitely one of the volunteers that really makes Multigp go, and we're really glad to have him on. But before we dive deep into that, Chris, how did you get into RC and FPV?
Back in 1987, my old man built a glider for me when I was 7 years old. I forget, 60-inch wingspan, the Gentle Lady glider. And we would fly that off of the cliffs of Plymouth. And
Nice.
That's how I got into RC. I was doing AM radio with him. He'd get it, 3 mistakes up. He'd hand it off to me,
Right.
and I'd fly it. And then eventually I started just taking it off on my own, because my dad was a commercial airline pilot, so he was off doing his thing. And I would go down to the cliff on a good windy day and launch that thing up and fly for an hour or two. That's how I got into it initially. And then I kept flying different planes as I grew up. 2016, it was early 2016, I watched that Miami Lights video. And I had looked into FPV before that, and I was like, this video sucks. It's no good. And I was waiting for a good video system to come out, and I bought the Konex, that full-size Konex, that big silver one. I bought that, and I hooked it up to a GoPro, and I put that on an FT Versacopter. Remember that?
Wow.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, so I had all that prepped up, and I got it going, and it sucked. Like I hooked it up to the TV. There was a huge delay. It was like, It was just bad. And so I just kind of set that aside and forgot about it. And then I watched that Miami Lights video. And I saw Steve Zumas win that race. And I was like, if I can out-launch that guy, I can beat him. I know. And so I went out to the local hobby shop that was carrying FPV stuff, and I talked to a guy named Chris Addy from CME Hobbies. And I was down there. I built up a couple of quads, and then I met this guy, Adam Prue. Adam Prue was the local Multigp organizer with Wingbusters Rotor Racers. He was like, hey, why don't you come out to the race I'm hosting the next day? And there was like 20 guys hanging out in the field. I was hooked. Immediately hooked. Like, I was just like, okay, I've been waiting my whole life for this. And just immediately went balls deep, started up my own Multigp chapter, started using the tools on a weekly basis. Like, I was constantly on that site, setting up races, getting things going, putting in results. I really could use some better tools because it was good. It did what it needed to do. Like the flow was pretty good, but the whole user experience from a chapter organizer's point of view was very repetitive. Like if you want to do a 10-round race how many chapter organizers shuffle their pilot?
Nobody. It's too hard.
Nobody. You go out to a big race
It's
with
a pain in the
20
ass.
pilots, you're not shuffling anybody. So you
Right.
set up the round once, because that's what everybody was doing for live time. They would set up the round once, one round, get it all set up, import it to live time, run the race. Well, same thing with the people that were running without a timing system, just doing aggregate lap. You
Right.
set up your one round, and then you sit there and you hit the thing over and over again until you got.
Right.
So I just simplified that whole process. It automatically checks you in as soon as you join the race, and it gets I've simplified everything from the pilot point of view to the organizer to, as far as getting the rounds all set up, and above and beyond that, made it so that way we can do a bunch of different formats, which they're now repurposing for the next year's regional series.
Nice.
As you know, 2018 regional series, this is the first time we had a leaderboard up there for the qualifiers. 2017, I participated in that, and there wasn't anywhere near the automation that I implemented for 2018. Not only for the qualifiers, but for the finals as well, to show the list, the contenders, the finalists, all from finalizing the race.
Nice. Yeah, that's definitely very helpful. And obviously, MultiGP's website has been up for quite a while. Definitely have to thank, Chris Thomas for, starting that innovation and putting in the time and the money to get all that started. But as an organization grows, obviously he had other things to fry. And, we want to thank Chris for actually getting in there and helping improve the tools, because let's face it, there was a time in 2017, it was pretty painful. There were a lot of complaints. Like, Chris, how did you get into that role in MultiGP? I mean, did you just go to Chris and say, "Hey, I want to fix your website"? Like, how did that go?
As I was telling you earlier, I run my own business. I run a software firm, and I've been doing that for years. I saw that there was a major problem going on at MultiGP, and it wasn't really talked about whenever people talked about it within the drone racing community or the organizers group, was kind of just fell on deaf ears. And I was noticing that as a chapter organizer. Well, Kane Madare, who won 2017 Sebring, he was literally on the site, front page, front and center for like 7 or 8 months. And I talked to Chris about it. I was like, "What's going on with your page, man? Like, this is, you got a cool page. A lot of people are using it, myself included. The tools are good. They could be better. And here are the ways I think they could be better." And we kind of hashed it out, and, we thought about it for a while. A couple months later, this was at 2017 I/O that I originally talked to him about it, or just before that. And it was right, a couple months after I talked to him about it, he was just like, "You know what? I really need to get this fixed. Let's pull the trigger, make a game plan." So that's when I saw Hefte Puente. He's a really hard worker, great guy. He spent a lot of time developing a WordPress site that was aesthetically pleasing. That's what you see today. That's all Hefte. He designed and implemented most of that site. What I did was I spent more time architecting the work than I did actually coding it. I did do some coding, but minimal. I just don't have time to sit there and code. As you know, it's a very time-consuming process to make things not only work, but work well and reliably. I have guys that do that for me. I can do it, but I have a lot of things going on. I'm juggling a lot of stuff.
You got other responsibilities.
Exactly. I'm running my company. I've got a wife and kid. And my free time, I'd rather practice on the track than sit.
And that's if you get free time, right? I mean,
when I get free time,
yeah,
absolutely. I make sure I get free time. It's a very important aspect of my life, to make sure that I do get out there and enjoy my hobby that I have put so much time and effort into.
Definitely. Let's face it, for every company, the architect gets paid more because that's an important position, right? You need a direction from a website perspective, from a tool perspective, from an enterprise tool perspective on where it's going to go. Because if all you're doing is you're just slapping a bunch of features on there, it's going to come out the other side terribly. And that's, you see a lot of websites fail because of that. Architecturally speaking, an architect that knows the vision of the application is super important. And we're glad that there's somebody there, trying to make sure that that vision stays at least somewhat coherent, because, it's hard. It's volunteer work. I'm really glad to hear that, you're willing to get some of the volunteer time from your employees to actually get the website running, because at this point, Elvin, I think it's actually pretty good.
I didn't have any problems with using the software. So I'm that guy that was like, hey, I don't know why they're doing stuff, like, like, I mean, I didn't have a problem.
Like that. It would always work.
Right. I never had a problem. I didn't have a problem with now. I know that when I tried to bring some guys up and give them responsibilities to being able, I had some issues I had to go and resolve, but it really was stuff like, okay, guys, you guys have to use this frequency chart. This is the one that we use. We don't use that because we're going to have issues. You have to check everybody in, and you fix that now, and those was the things that I had to tell everybody. It wasn't really like somebody. Now I know for me, like when I first got on there, I went on there and I actually made a post team because I was the captain, right? I was the captain, but I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that. Like, so like I went and made this whole this team and got everything all set up. And then like I'm getting like these messages like, who the hell effed up this? Like what the hell happened? And I'm like, what did I do? Like, oh, you're not supposed to be in there. I'm like, then why do I have access? Like, whoops. Then take me out of that spot. You know what I mean? Don't give me access to something I can't touch, because I'm going to touch it.
Yeah, so speaking
of
frequencies, so the frequency management is one thing that I focused on. Is every time you'd fire up a race, you'd always have to choose what frequency set you were using, disable the ones that you weren't, and then you'd have to do that every time you set up a race. Now, above and beyond being able to duplicate a race, which copies everything over, you can also save whatever frequency set you've used, along with the channels and polarization. Polarization now works properly.
Oh, that's nice.
So
we probably still ignore it.
Right? And you can still ignore it by just defaulting to both, unless you're doing race band 8. If you're doing full race band 8, you have to go left and right.
That's true.
But that's typical of running 8 at a time. But if you're always using a custom frequency set or IMD6C with these two frequencies disabled or this one disabled, it's going to remember that for your next race that you come up with.
Nice. So let me ask you this, because, you're the architect of all this, we definitely have a very smart community. Obviously, a lot of us are coders or doing something with technology, the people that are kind of doing all this drone stuff. If somebody wants to volunteer, their time to actually help code some things, what's the process of reaching out and, getting all of that, started?
People have been reaching out to me, and then basically it's either you reach out on the chapter organizers group, the community. I keep my eyes open for that all the time. If you want to volunteer your time, I'm willing to, take a look at what you've done and then see if it's worthwhile to bring, because it takes a while to bring somebody on up to speed on the software, the architecture. They need to be set up with a development environment. It takes time. And if they have experience in LAMP programming that they can show me, then have them sign an NDA that Chris Thomas has written up, same one I signed, bring them online.
Oh, awesome.
So I've got Joe Bailey. I've got Brian Ridsdale. Brian's a guy that lives in New Jersey. A couple of years ago, wanted to get involved, started volunteering his time. When I do have budget to do development, Brian's one of my resources. Joe is one of my resources. Those guys work out really well. Anybody else that wanted to volunteer, reach out to me. If you've got free time and you've got LAMP experience, I've got stuff for you to do. There's not a whole lot to be done, but there are things that need to be developed. It's just we have people sign the NDA to keep our data protected.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you do have a lot of data at this point, I'm pretty sure. And
the amount of data for racing, the race data that is in that database for each individual pilot, I have enough to develop a ranking system, not a very, very complex one, but I really at this point have obtained enough data to develop a comprehensive ranking system of all the pilots in America, and at least North America, at least.
That would be actually cool to see. Like, since MultiGP started racing, what is the the North American rankings? That would be kind of awesome to see. Of course, everybody's going to argue with you on your algorithm on how you actually calculated that.
Well, that's the
Really,
thing, and that's why we haven't released it. I've had this written for a while. I know where people stack up. If anybody wanted to gamble against me, I'm not the guy to do it at a drone race.
You heard it here,
because
folks.
I'm not actually. So
systematically, he can predict. There's an 82% chance
the reason why we haven't
is going to end up on the top
and showing it is because we want it to be right. We've seen other leagues putting out these rankings that are always just like it's based on, a couple of their events or whatever, but their rankings are never real. At least I don't feel that they are. I've seen these rankings. I've seen the pilots that are ranked way up, and I'm like, nah, I don't know. I've raced against that person, and I don't think they're in the top 10 of the international drone racing community. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tough.
Isn't that why we set up the international courses? I mean, really to determine who. I mean, the tracks Cup? The tracks that the time test tracks. Yeah, the UTs. Yeah. Isn't that why we set that up? I mean, part of the data. I mean, so really, there's different things that show a fast drone racer and somebody that's going to win races. There's their bracket consistency. There's how fast they can do a lap on a track. There's how fast they can consistently do 3 laps on a track. This is all data that I have for a lot of different races for all these drone races. I mean, hundreds of drone races around the country. I'd really like to have it done using a similar methodology to what you see when you're pairing people up in ranked video games. Microsoft has it written. I really just don't have the time or the background, really, because I've never written this algorithm before out in this context. It'd be a whole new endeavor for me to basically say, all right, if you're ranked, if you've faced off against this person, then, if you've done this well against that guy at this point, then you're going to be ranked here. And so and then do matchmaking based on that. Like, I can't describe it very well right now.
But we understand.
I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Where if you go against that ranked number 1 person and you beat him or even tie him, then he's going to lose a bunch of ranking. You're going to gain a whole bunch. The data that I have right now, I can't do just that.
Yeah, we understand. Like, if you look at college football rankings and you look at the algorithm to do that, you're like, how the heck do you get a number from that thing? And it's like, you break it down, it's like, okay, that's crazy. It's like, so, hey, you know what? Anybody out there who is like, computer science and mathematics, definitely reach out. Maybe we can come out with a cool algorithm that can at least come close. It'd be interesting to see. I would love to see something like that.
And we have a lot of data to work with. It's just a matter of getting the algorithm right and getting the executive crew to agree that that's the right way to do it.
Yep.
Because I've come up with a whole bunch. I mean, I have it right here on my whiteboard. Like, I can literally flip my camera around, and I have a whole bunch of this ranking algorithm stuff that I've been working on my whiteboard right now.
It's tough.
Until it's right, I don't see any point in releasing it.
Yep. Or at least it's a consensus on if it's right, because obviously there's always going to be debate. Just like in college football, there's always debate, which is fine. Just as long as everybody is run through the algorithm equally so that we can at least be consistent, That's the nice part.
Right.
Okay. So one of the things that you already told us about, and I'm kind of excited about this, is that one of the things that you're looking at developing is a tablet version for race organizers. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it's going to work?
Sure. So I actually debuted the alpha of this tablet application at Flight Fest, Ohio. And what it does is it allows you to sign into Multigp. Once you sign in, you select a chapter that you manage. Once you're into a chapter, then it shows all the races from this day and into the future. Select the race that you want to run. And then at that point, you can you get the slots that associate with that race. So each slot is a frequency. So you get all the slots that associate with it, and you scan a QR code.
Right.
Now, the QR code is right on the multigp.com website. When you sign in under your pilot avatar, you have a little red button. That's a QR code that associates with your pilot identifier. I can scan that in to a specific slot very quickly, add you to a round, which then puts you into the timing system.
That's really nice, especially for these large events, because what I've noticed is that there's been a lot of innovation around, like, RaceSync or whatever organizer software it is, around how you practice or how you sign up for a round, because in IO, it's hectic. There's so many people racing there that anything that helps us there, I think, is super cool.
Yeah, and that's where we did our second beta, which was a much larger scale. So it worked really well at Flight Fest Ohio, which was one flight line, a few dozen rounds, like nothing crazy, but it worked well there. And then when we brought it to IO with hundreds of pilots and hundreds of rounds, it started to choke up. It was a little sketchy at some points. I wound up in the total CPU availability on the server just to handle the load. But most importantly, I found a major flaw in the way that the races were being rendered when you went to the standings page, or when you went to any race that had more than a few dozen rounds. There was basically I wouldn't even say it's a flaw in the code, but it was just inefficient code for rendering the round data. If, let's say, you had one round, 100 rounds, and each one of them had one heat, and you had 200 pilots, the rendering of that wouldn't just render that one round that was or that one heat for that round that was in the data. It would attempt to render a whole bunch of heats to match the total number of pilots, even though there was actually only one heat.
Right.
So I found that inefficiency, fixed it. Now we have software that runs a whole lot faster, and overall server efficiency went up astronomically.
Yeah, I'm sure, because you're basically rendering data that nobody cares about, because nobody else is looking at the rest of the rounds or heats at all. So
and there's not even anything there to look at. Like, it's just there's one heat of pilots for that round. That's the way the tablet works.
Any idea when that's going to be rolling out, or?
So I have some stuff that I have to take care of. So like right now, for example, this is the latest bug that I found when running this Boston Warehouse FPV Racing series over the last month. Because we ran the tablet app the whole time. It worked really well. But what we found is that if you have somebody signed in on the live time side and the same user account logged into the tablet app, well, each one is going to create a session with the server, which overrides the other's session. Ooh. So what was happening is you log back in with the integration on live time, it would kick the tablet off. So you'd have to log back in with the tablet and go back and forth. So I have to come up with a solution for that before I can release this. Other than that, it's pretty much ready to roll.
Okay,
that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. It is when it doesn't, because like it's not on the tablet app. It's not letting you know sessions expired. It's just sending the round up, and I don't have any error checking in place right now. But that's really the last bit. Like I said, it needs polishing, and then it's ready to roll.
Okay. Awesome.
It's in beta phase.
There we go.
Yeah. Yep. Really close to being polished enough to release to the public, at least for Android. We're gonna redo everything in Ionic to allow us to simultaneously release to both iOS and Android at the same time.
I got you. Oh boy, need more volunteers. That's what I just heard. Is like, we're gonna redesign the Ionic. It's like the resources just went up.
Yeah. If you have experience with Ionic, reach out to me. You know where to find me, Christopher Perry on Facebook,
that ain't gonna be me,
Perry at multigp.com.
There you go. So if you want to help out with some new tools, help the racing going on throughout the North America and some parts of the world, definitely reach out if you're free and you like to code.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of chapters worldwide.
Yeah.
Just remember, young folks, that this is how you get recognized. In some things, you do some work. You do some work for free, and people go, oh look, oh so he needs to be over here and he needs to be, and then you get offers to move around.
Right. That is a fact. These guys coming out of college, if you're still in college or you're just coming out and you haven't found work yet, still living at your parents' house, call me.
Hey,
this will be a great thing for your resume. I promise. I'll give you a good reference.
it's true, man. It's like, that website, it's an enterprise app at this point. It's internationally known, and you can definitely worthwhile to put it on your resume. So if you're a coder, definitely reach out to Chris Perry and go write some code for him. But moving that aside, anything that you would want, to code next on the website?
I have a lot of things really in good shape at this point. It's really on my wish list is to get this organizer app finished up. And then even longer than this latest organizer app that I've been working on, they have a pilot app. It's an open source pilot application that scrapes the site that I really haven't looked too deep into, but it notifies the pilots. It does a lot of the stuff that I would like to have as a pilot at one of these big events.
Oh, nice.
And so that's another big thing on my wish list is to get that put up.
So what happened to Drone Squad? The software that we were using. What happened to that? Because that used to notify us.
I never used that.
Really?
I tried it once with because it was a requirement for the TBS race tracker, that little
that's true,
little thing. But I mean, I haven't used that app since I got the event tracker.
Because I still get guys signing in through it. Yeah,
wow.
I haven't heard that in a while.
Like, I get guys. I mean, like out of the blue, like somebody will it says, I get a little message saying, "Bing," so and so is during your drone. Like,
no kidding. Wow.
Really? Like, really?
It's an app out there, so who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure people, they type in drones and it comes up.
Right.
No.
Never know nowadays. Never know.
Because we still have here in Portland, we still have PDX drones. That was the original meetup. Me and a couple of guys.
Meetup is a really good tool. You pair Meetup with Multigp, and you've got everything you need, really.
True.
Meetup, Eventbrite, and Multigp, and you've got all the tools you need. I mean, ideally, I'd like to have the Eventbrite kind of pushed out and have it integrated into the site. Maybe we can make a buck, but I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on tools for the organizer.
Right. I got you. No, but hey, I think that would be a cool tool to have. So I would add that. That's my number one to add to the wish list. Was one of the hardest things to make. I don't know, pilots, they'll come to a race, but getting them to pay and trying to get that all sorted out at the very beginning, that is a major headache sometimes. It is just
it is.
It's like,
because they don't want to come off the money.
This whole racing series, man, this whole last month is because some people would sign up on Eventbrite and then others would pay cash. And I was just like, if they said they signed up on Eventbrite, I was like, okay, I take your word for it. I'm not checking that shit. I believe you. If you didn't do it, I'll come find you later.
Exactly.
In front of everyone.
Because at the event, right at that moment, there's 3 other things to worry about, and cash payment is not one of them. It's not on the list right now.
Right.
Yeah, I know the feeling. So
get this guy $150 is not that important.
Shush. But
yeah. That was the entry. It was $10 and then $35 for the finals.
Right.
Which had $1,000 prize pool or $1,000 for first place, and what the other ones were. The $350 for first on the sportsman class prizes and trophies. It was awesome.
Yeah. Let's get into that.
It was good racing. We seen some of it.
Right?
Yeah.
Did you watch the finals with Ethan?
I didn't get to see the finals yet. But
I watched the replay.
Yeah.
The final race was a Chase the Ace with Nurk, Ethan Kling, and Soren Monroe Anderson. And they went 1-1-1, and then Nurk took it at the end. 4 on a Chase the Ace with a 3-man in it. It was amazing.
Those are the cool ones. And the track looked pretty cool from the pictures that I saw, too. And,
Nice.
You know what?
Oh,
Tell us
sorry.
a little bit about the Boston FPV Warehouse. Obviously, that's kind of like a winter racing series for you guys. That's kind of what I picked up on. Is that what it is?
Okay, so what happened was FPV Direct, which is my sponsor. Ethan Kling is also sponsored by them. Doug and I have been working with them just to kind of get their name out there. They run the Pulse battery. They distribute Furious stuff. And we've just been, putting it out there. We're wearing the jerseys, doing the marketing stuff for them. And we haven't gotten a whole lot in return. I'm just putting it out there. They've been really good to us. They give us good discounts, but we hadn't really gotten a lot in return. And Doug and I have done a lot this last year.
At least I don't feel bad now. Like I felt bad before. Like, what did I do? Like, what the hell?
Right. So now they moved their warehouse out to Indiana, and their Boston warehouse or their Malden warehouse needs to be cleaned up. So Doug offered to clean it up with his son Ethan, Doug Kling. As soon in trade for cleaning up the warehouse, we would get to use it for a month.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah,
so we got a heated, powered warehouse for a month for free. Thank you, Sam and David from FPV Direct.
There we go. That's how you do it. Hey, heated. Man, in the wintertime, that is like a blessing.
That's like
winters are no joke. It was
nobody complains in the winter when you got to pay $25 to get in the place,
right?
The race because
$10
is it?
It was awesome. It was so much fun.
That's awesome.
I wound up bowing out so that way I could actually design the championship course.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually didn't race in the finals because we refused to release the championship course to everybody. So nobody got to see it. Nobody got to practice it. It was a complete surprise to everybody. But of course I had flown it, but I flown about a dozen packs on the thing. It was a really, really fun course to fly.
Nice. There we go. So what is the chapter that you run? And
MA Drone Racing is my chapter. I'm based on the Cape Cod area in Southeast Massachusetts. We organize on Cape Cod, Plymouth, Whitman, Boston, basically anywhere in Massachusetts. You can find either myself or one of my chapter managers organizing races at any given weekend.
Nice. So if you're around the Boston area, Cape Cod area, definitely look them up and join in the racing and join in the fun, because indoor racing is actually kind of fun to watch, especially if the pilots bother to put LEDs on their drones, because you can really track the races very easily as opposed to outside where it's like just a little bee running around out there. It's kind of hard to track.
We also had the projector going.
Yep.
We had because we were doing 4-up, and we had on the projector, we had the 4-way going with the overlays and everything, filling up a whole wall with like 3 rows of seating, like
nice
seats. It was awesome.
That's the way to do it.
So let me ask you this: so how well did the spectators enjoy that? I mean,
we were loving it. Like I actually went and joined the spectators for the finals. Like I left Doug at the race ops, and I was just like, I'm watching this shit. It was amazing. Like, I mean, like I said, we had 3 rows, 7 per row. Just the fold-up chairs, the Icon and the Pulse and the Heli Direct fold-up chairs. We just had them all set up, and every chair was full. People were grabbing more.
Nice.
That's
what
awesome.
we want to hear.
Yeah.
We want to hear that kind of stuff.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people that had no idea that it existed. They wound up coming out and checking it out. We had people that had never flown in a race before show up to this event. I had a bunch of college kids that wound up signing up for Multigp because that was the only way to get into the race.
Sweet.
There's this old man Mitch.
Yep.
Old man Mitch. Holy crap. This guy has never flown an event before, refused to sign up for Multigp. The guy had to have been 70. And he shows up with Beta 75X. Like it's a brushless whoop.
Okay.
Right. So
and he's just like, he's struggling with it. And I'm just like, all right, dude, let me see what I can do. And I get him set up with his frequency, and I get him in line, and I get him, and I like, I tried to do the best I could for the guy, and he could not fly the track with this thing. So finally, he's just like, he's given up, and I can see he's frustrated, and he's just like, can you try to fly this thing? Because I'm not sure it will even fly through the course. And I'm just like, all right, bud, let me see what you got. And so I took his headset, and it was one of these big box headsets, and I took his radio, and I had, and he ran out there, 70-year-old guy running out there, putting his Beta 75X right on the on the pro launch pads, and I take off, and I just start ripping through this course on this on this little Beta 75. I couldn't believe it. Like, it was so much fun, and he's sitting there like watching on the screen, like, oh, I can do it. And then I'm so excited. He came out to every single one of the events, short of the finals. Like, he didn't show up to the finals, which was kind of a bummer, because he had like kind of become a staple in our fan. There was this old man like that wanted to fly, and he was like being very patient about it. He was a nice guy, but.
After that, what did his attitude? I mean, his attitude had to change, right? I mean,
he had a good attitude the whole time.
I mean, towards his stuff. I mean, his ship. Like, he was frustrated, right?
He showed up with an Inductrix, like a tiny whoop, right. And those, you know how it is with those brush motors. You get a piece of hair in there, something's wrong. It's not going to work right, and so. He tried with the whoop first, and then he shows up the next week with the Beta 75, and he got frustrated with that. And I was just like, man, what's going on? He's like, I don't think it will fly through the course. I was like, can you try it? And I was like, all right, here we go.
Well, I hope he shows up next year and comes with something, and hopefully he can finish the track, because that's what we want to hear. Because, I'm going to ask you about it. Yeah.
It was kind of funny watching him, like, because it was a whoop, so we were letting him just like walk out onto the course. Obviously not with other people, but like in between heats, just to give him more time out there. And he was literally like, he would pick, put the thing down, put his headset on, fly through the next gate, crash, go pick it up, And you could see the guy just walking slowly through the course, trying to get his quad through it. It was
it's cool.
It was great. I mean, like, it was old man Mitch at the Boston Warehouse series. It was awesome.
There we go.
I think that's awesome.
Passing to legend.
It was like just seeing an older guy come in and enjoy himself, even though it was frustrating. I know it was frustrating for him. It had to have been.
We've all been there, though.
But it is when you first get into it.
Yeah.
If you don't, when you don't know anything about this, and you just try, you think it's cool, and you just want to go into it. If you don't buy the right stuff, you're gonna have a hard time.
I mean, can you imagine trying to learn how to drive a stick without anybody telling you what to do? Like,
nobody told me what to do. The first time I drove a stick shift was on a Dodge Daytona that was given to my girlfriend. I'm 16 years old. She comes, picks me up. She doesn't know how to drive a stick. And I'm like, oh, I can get this. And I figured it out. Dude, the poor guy had a blown third gear when she returned the I'll never forget that. It was she picked me up from my high school.
Figured it out, all right.
In this loaner car that it was the guy's personal car. He had loaned her, and I'm certain we blew up his third gear.
I took out 2 stop signs in the mailbox.
You guys are terrible. You guys are terrible.
Goes, turn right. I no power steering. Right. One of those old big giant old Ford trucks. I grabbed the steering wheel and I'm like.
So I had to do it.
All right. Not only does Chris Perry likes his drones, but he also likes his wings. In fact, I think he's beat Elvin on his wings. What do you think of his collection, Elvin?
He's got some wings. I know he's got Defiant, because I can see
2 of them right there.
I can see in the picture. I mean, on the wall right there, and see. One of the things I notice about wings on all different planes is each manufacturer makes the winglets different from other manufacturers, right? And they all have their reasons for why it's like that. And
Double D, baby. Double D.
Look, that's a twin motor, guys.
That's twin.
And,
So I bought. So this is the second double D ever made, and then Adam Crew also built a double D 42. So that's 2 6-inch props, counter rotating. Those are 3-inch props on that guy, but on the 42, it's 2 6-inch counter rotating. And man, I'll tell you, that plane is fast for a Defiant 42.
wow. I got one pretty fast. You know,
Oh, I'm sure
mine
it
is recovering from the river. I don't know if I told anybody, but I went in hard. I had a 5-volt line regulator die in midair, and instead of it dying when I was level and flat, heading toward land, getting ready to land, it died when I was inverted on a 45-degree angle, pointed toward the river.
Of course it did.
So it
Most
went,
opportune moment.
right. It went in the river, you know, about quarter throttle, and my GoPro is somewhere in that water down at the bottom. It's, you know, that's what happens, right?
It's what
take
happens.
chances.
So,
Take chances.
how did you get into wings? And why Defiant Wings? Because we did have him on, and he was a great guy to
Yeah,
talk
Sean
to.
on, man.
Oh, Sean?
Yeah, he talked all about his
Sean's
wing
got-
design.
Yeah. He actually used to come out to my drone races before he got cutting wings.
Yeah.
So I don't know what got me into wings. I went to NEFPV, I went this year to Feet Meet, but NAFPV last year, 2017. I went out there and I had a few wings. Like I had a Theory, I had a spec wing. You know, I like anything that flies. Like if it's RC and it flies, I'm into it. Like, I mean, you know, if I brought you upstairs, I've got a 33% Honda Extra 300 with a 120cc DLE.
I love everything. As long as it's got a
radio.
radio connected to it, I want to play with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you there. You know, I just never wound up getting into the boats. But yeah, I've got a ton of planes. I've got the giant Aeromaster, big 84-inch biplane with a 60cc gasser on it.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of nitros.
Okay, going old school.
Yeah.
That's not old school. That's not old school.
The Ultra Stick 40 is one of my favorite nitros. My old man and I built that about 12 years ago. And I crashed it. I'll never forget. I crashed it. Like the wing flopped off.
Oh.
Down it went hard. Totaled the plane. Like it looked like it was totaled at least. But what I did is I brought it back to the house. I picked up every piece of it because my dad passed away about 8 years ago. I crashed the plane about 4 or 5 years ago. And I was devastated. I was like, no, not the plane I built with my old man.
Uh-huh.
And so I pick up every last little piece of wood and I bring it back to the house and I jigsaw it back together and I use hot glue to put it back together well enough to make a stencil. I bought new ply, rebuilt the whole fuselage because the back of the plane was fine, but from 6 inches back from the wing all the way to the front was just total. So I rebuilt all that.
That's a rectangle box too, so that makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, it did. So I just basically rebuilt that rectangle, and you know, she still flies today.
Nice.
I've flown the Ultra Stick. I remember when it first came out, and
Flying plane, huh?
yes, very, very. My buddy Chris Goldspink had an Ultra Stick 60.
I've seen that.
And we went and flew it, and he, you know how we always talk about you got to put Loctite on it, and especially a machinist. Well, the machinist forgot to put Loctite on one of the wheel screws, nuts. So as it was flying, the wheel fell off.
Oh no!
So he panics. He goes here, and I'm like, I get to fly it, and he's like, you get to land it
without a wheel.
And he said the wheel came off, and I'm like, oh, okay. So like, which one? You know, and I figured out which one and flew by, and then came back and landed it. But that is one of the best flying planes that you can get from Horizon if you can still get one.
100%.
You know, I miss the Mini. The Mini is like, he bought the big one, and I couldn't afford the big ones. Yeah, I bought the 32 inch. I think it's 32 inches. Anyway,
yep.
Yeah, I love that plane until I put one through the power lines. You know, it happens. Yeah.
It does. It does.
Fly it?
What's the biggest plane that you actually fly now?
That would be my Honda. Extra 300, 33%er, big old Honda, 120cc DLE gas, 10-foot wingspan. You know,
that's big.
I got a DA50.
It flies really, really well for 3D flyer.
And you're good with that? You like that rudder action?
Oh yeah, buddy.
Okay, that's what I'm liking. See that? See, you're just a pilot. You know,
you gotta live on the rudder, boy.
Right.
You know this.
You're just a pilot. You know, you're like me. You just you gotta fly. That's what, you know. You get up in the morning. I got these things I gotta do, but I get 15 minutes to go fly. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna take those 15 minutes
right.
every day.
I'm not gonna complain about it. I'm just gonna be ready. You know,
Yep.
like the guys are talking about right now, going out tomorrow morning, and I'm like, they're like, I just need to know where we're going so I can charge the right batteries.
Bring the right equipment so I can go fly with you guys.
I'm like, that's why we have so much stuff, right? Because you like to fly with other guys outside of drone flying, you know, flying, right. Yep. and there's other guys out there that, you know, like, I know a couple of guys I like to fly with that fly wings, and there's a couple of guys I only like to fly helicopters with. You know what I mean? Yep. And you know, we don't get together that much anymore,
absolutely.
But you know, it's those things that I use to connect with those people, and that's why I love flying, because it gives you the opportunity to reach out to so many different individuals. You know, at RC period, you know, the boat guys, hanging out with the boat guys. I go down to the park and hang out with the boat guys, go down and hang out with the RC car guys, you know, go out to the field and go out to the mountains, to the edges of the cliffs, out in the gorge, and fly, you know, gliders and stuff like that, and do some DSL. And it's just, this market, when you look at RC, is so immense in so many divisions, you know. It's I just don't see why we can't get together as a unit and work harder for the unit itself.
Dude, FPV wings and FPV quads don't even mix. Like,
right.
I mean, these groups just don't mix at all. Like, you and I are one of the few exceptions that can go from the heli guys and be perfectly comfortable flying a 3D heli to flipping over to the IMAC 3D guys and being able to do their stupid pattern until you get bored with it. And then I can't stand IMAC 3D. I can do it. It's so boring. Like, I almost immediately start hovering. I'm just like, okay, I've done my routine.
Right.
Now I'm just gonna hover this thing and rolling Harrier at a real slow speed. You know, that's what I live for. I love that stuff.
Yeah, I like reversing, doing starting a roll and then reversing it and then watching it go back. You know, that's the thing I like. I used to like doing rolling circles, but I think once I learned to do the chaos, it was one of those things. Like, every time I would get into doing rolling circles, I would think about, oh yeah, I'm just two moves outside of doing it.
Yeah. You break a bunch of balls to learning how to do it.
Right.
That's
so I stopped doing that, you know. But yeah, I agree. There's not a lot of guys out there with multi disciplines out there, and everybody seems to stay in their own little area, where I like to venture outside my area, because that's how we gain more guys to the hobby. I mean, like,
100%.
You know, like, I was just telling somebody, like, you got to get out there, and I agree, we all need to fly together from time to time, but you still need to get and go somewhere else and go have some fun. because you attract this. That's how I found out about RC. We were driving down the highway, and I said, "What is that?" You know, and what the hell is that? I don't know. Let's go.
Because you could bring FPV, you could bring the numbers of FPV up dramatically if everybody in the FPV community went out to their local glider guys. If they figured out who flew distance launch gliders and just slope soarers, every single person I've come across that likes slope soaring and discus launch loves FPV.
Right.
Every one of them that I put under the goggles, like, hey, bud, here, try my glider that has the goggles. Right. And they're just like, this is the best thing ever. And next thing you know, Dave also got one.
But, here's one for me that kind of confuses me is, like, helicopter guys don't want nothing to do with FPV. Like, we could get
they don't want anything to do with anybody.
Right.
I mean, like, you bring a plane that you're flying like just like a heli, just sitting there hovering right next to them. They're just like, get that plane out of here.
Right, you can't do this. And
but you bring a 3D heli, they're your best friend.
I remember when we started doing 4D, and a couple of guys like, oh, you can't even hover. Like, you want me to hover? Okay, I'm hovering. Now, how about this? I can do that too, upside down, nose down, hovering. And they, oh, I like that. That was the only time that they felt, oh, now you're working the other side of your brain. I'm like,
it's just how it is, man.
Yeah, everybody wants to divide, but we should work, like I said, we need to work more toward grouping everybody together and encompassing all of those different disciplines. I still would like to see an event at the end of the year with all the top pilots competing on all the different disciplines.
Oh,
that'd be awesome.
Wow.
That would actually get some people watching the stream.
Right, because you could watch Alan Zaisbo FPV. That would be hilarious. Or Tariq, you know what I mean? Or Tariq, doing FPV. I've seen him do FPV, and he crashes a lot. That's his thing, right? I mean, he's like, normally he crashes and just give me another one. And that don't happen as well as it used to. I mean, as with helicopters. You don't just turn it off and grab another radio. That's not the thing. But I'd love to see an event like that at the end of the year.
That'd be neat. That'd be really neat.
There we go. All right, you're an organizer. You get it done. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's easier said than done.
Concept.
Oh yeah.
It's just a concept.
It's dude. I can't even imagine organizing something like that across disciplines and scheduling all that out. But I like the concept.
I love the concept. I don't even want to. Just the thought of the logistics makes my head hurt.
Sign him up, but he don't want to volunteer.
Hey, we need an app for that.
There you go. You got help on that one.
Because I would definitely compete for that. I think multi skill wise, there's only a few pilots, and we would have to compete with Evan Turner. He flies everything.
Evan Turner would rock the house.
Right.
Event.
Yeah, we would just have to crowd him.
I would have all my money on Evan Turner and Alex Vanover, the two guys that I know have the multiple disciplines.
Yeah, that's true.
And at the top level too. Evan just won the IMAC 3D, championships in Indiana.
Right. He is definitely multi-skilled, and kid's amazing. That's all I'm going to say.
Natural.
He is a natural.
Both of them. Both of them.
That's right.
Both of those kids. Really, really good kids, really good pilots. Great families they're coming from. I mean, I love Kathy. I love Kevin. Great people. And both of them have, great kids.
Yep.
Kind people.
Very kind
people. There we go. But we do know, Evan's kryptonite. Just bring the dog and have him lick the leg, and he'll automatically crash. It's fine. Just do that. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. All right, we're way off track at this point.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Actually, we're kind of at the end of the show.
To digress when you're having fun.
That's right. So, Chris,
So-
go ahead. You got.
I got a question. So I see the computer behind you. You know, is that your gaming machine or your sim machine?
Actually, this is my gaming machine's right here. Very similar to what you see back there, but that's my nephew's gaming machine. Yep.
I like that chair.
It's a fancy chair.
Oh, I like that chair. I've seen
Matt's?
that chair.
Oh, his chair's balling.
Yeah.
I've seen that chair.
That's a sweet chair.
Yeah.
It's not horribly expensive either. Like it was, I think
110 bucks,
but it's really nice.
I've seen that chair. There's a green one I've been eyeballing for like 2 years. Every time I go in there, I want this chair. Let me know if it goes on sale. And the guy's
my God! You have thousands of dollars you spent on wings. You can't buy yourself a nice chair?
I got a nice chair.
What's wrong with you? That's
a nice chair.
You were waiting for it to what? Go down to 225?
Thank you, Chris.
No.
Come on.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris.
I got a budget, damn it.
Yeah, just cut out one of your wings that you want to go buy. You know what I'm talking about.
2 months to build one of those things.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yes, I do. I've seen plenty of your builds. All right, getting back on track.
Oh no.
Yes, I do. Hey, Chris. It's already over an hour. It's great talking to you.
Nice, man.
We're really glad that you're volunteering for Multigp, really getting some good stuff done. And also, you're enjoying the community, getting out there. We definitely like to see you at I.O., and we'll hopefully continue to see you at big events. But for anybody who wants to reach out, contact you, help you out, or give you suggestions, where can they reach you on the internet?
So Christopher Perry on Facebook. I usually respond in a fairly reasonable amount of time, depending on what I'm doing for that day. Or C Perry at multigp.com.
cperry@multigp.com. So, if you want to help out Multigp, if you want to, help out coding, or just want to reach out and, say hi to them, definitely do that. Chris, really
complain about something.
Oh dear, no, plenty of no complaining. We already have plenty of that in this group.
So there's a bug reporting engine. If you've got complaints, just go to the bug submission tool. Like, that way it all gets tracked.
Right.
Because that way I can, when I go out to these big events, I can get the list of the biggest complainers and shame you. I kid, but really, if there is a bug or there's something that you'd like to see changed, there's a submission tool. Now that goes into our ticketing system, and that's actually what I use to determine the next steps. So if there's something like horribly broken or just like that doesn't make sense, those comments and those bug submissions help me out a lot, because I had 2.5 years worth when I came on board of those bug submissions. I went through every single one of them, and that's how I got to where we are today.
Awesome.
Okay, I only got one.
You got to go write it. You can't just say it on the podcast.
I'm gonna say it on the podcast because we all know what it is. We need a new instruction sheet how to build the gates.
Oh, well,
not the one from 2013.
Well, so now that's the beauty of what I did. I made it so that the marketing and branding team can go in there and update those documents with ease. And that doesn't require me as the architect of the software to make that happen whatsoever. So feel free to contact Jefe Fuente or Daniel Goodell. They'll be happy to make sure that your request gets handled.
Right.
There you go. Just pass the buck. That's all I'm saying.
He's on.
Oh, absolutely.
I love it. Hey, sometimes.
That day's been awesome.
Hey, everybody, just replace the 1.5, the half-inch, with 1 1/4 inch. If you do that, your gates are going to be solid.
EMT, bro. EMT. That's what's up.
Right.
I've been running EMT for a while now. I have yet to have anybody get through that.
There you go.
Yeah, they might break their stuff, but that's their problem. Don't hit it so hard.
Yeah, people yell at me at that. Bring more arms.
Bring more.
Yep.
All right, man.
And thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was I'm humbled to be invited onto your show, and I'm just glad to be part of the community. And I'm sure I'll see you guys out at the big event sometime in 2019.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We'll be out there in Vegas. That's where we're going first, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it to Vegas. I've got a lot going on Q1 of next year. So I kind of wait until 2 or 3 weeks before the event, and then I'm just like, okay, now I'm gonna buy my tickets and everything, and here I am. And more often than not, that's what happens. But because you never know, something big could come up. If it does, I got to go there and make my money.
Yeah.
But if I can go, usually the last couple of weeks I know it, and then I said everything.
Well, you don't have much of a 401k.
Oh, I earned that before I started my company, bro.
There you go.
Right. I'm just saying, but
you're not
that
401k certainly isn't crypto.
Right.
Chris, great having you on. We'll definitely have you on again, and keep up the good work, and keep enjoying all of the stuff you're doing in Boston, because it looks great on the internet.
Thanks, man. It's been a lot of fun to do it, and thanks again for having me. And reach out to me anytime you'd like to have me back. It was a lot of fun.
All right, will do. And we are out for the